Vic and Amy are brought together at the altar of the fireman, where they must submit to become one with the flame or burn in agony. We're going to cover it right here in our review of Charred Remains number 5 from Mad Cave Studios. See you in 3. Welcome back to Comical Opinions. This is our review of Charred Remains number 5 from Mad Cave Studios. Let's talk about the credits first. This issue is written by Anthony Cleveland with art and colors by Andrea Muti, letters by Taylor Esposito, and the main cover A, is drawn by Man House. Let's recap what happened in the previous issue. Vic and Amy have arrived at the same conclusion that the fireman is real and that he is surrounded by a cult that keeps him fed. Now, there's some connection between the fireman, which is this fire-based demon, and these lanterns and candles that they find that the acolytes are carrying around with them to start fires, and then that eventually feeds the fireman the energy he needs through the flesh and blood of the flame's victims. Now, consequently, we now know that the fireman has been around for a very long time, and if the fireman isn't fed, he becomes rabid and could threaten to burn the entire city down. At the same time, at this moment, a hurricane is now barreling down on New Orleans, and half the pump stations that were used to keep water out of the city have been destroyed in a recent fire created by the fireman's acolytes. And at the end of the issue, Uncle Robbie, who is Amy's uncle, his shop was destroyed in another one of the fires created by the acolytes, presumably to bring Amy out of hiding and also to squelch any opposition to the fireman's plans. And that brings us to Charred Remains number 5. In the first scene, we catch up with Amy, who is distraught over the destruction of Uncle Robbie's shop, presumably Uncle Robbie's death. Everything is completely wiped out. And when the fire personnel are arriving to put everything out and to clean up and to do an investigation into the possibility of arson, they recognize Amy and know that she was at the scene of the fire pump damage and also numerous fires that have occurred recently, and they suspect that she is an arsonist, and they take her into custody. Vic shows up, and he also knows that is complete nonsense. He tries to stop it. They say, Vic, you're kind of like freaked out and still in shock from the recent events where you got hit on the head and you saw some people die horribly. Let's get him out of here. His colleagues sort of half drag him away to the back of a waiting van or an ambulance, and they punch him and knock him out because his colleagues and fellow firemen are also acolytes of the fireman demon. Later, Amy is questioned at the police station. She's not giving up any information, but the police officers who are questioning her are also part of the fireman's cult. And they say, well, okay, we need to transport you because the hurricane is on its way, and we're going to take you further inland where you can be safe from potential damage from the hurricane. But when they bring her outside to the car that's waiting for her, they see one of the firemen's candles on the dashboard of the car, and she knows that she's not being taken to safety. She's probably going to be taken to where the rest of the cult is headquartered and sequestered. Cut to a new scene where Vic wakes up after being knocked out, and he's in what looks like an underground cave or cavern system. And when he sort of comes to his senses and starts looking around, he sees dead bodies chained up from the ceiling and dripping blood into these large canisters that are feeding blood into the smaller containers. So he sees firsthand how people are being used as sacrifices to provide the fireman with blood. And in another part of the cave, he also sees acolytes who are willingly casting themselves into the flames to keep the fireman fed. And so this whole environment, this whole cult is designed exclusively to keep feeding the fireman so that the fireman is contained. Because again, if he is left to starve, he becomes rabid and he just starts burning everything down. At the same time, Amy is brought into the cavern with a bag over her head, so she doesn't know how she got there or where she is exactly until they take the bag off. And she's seated in front of one of the leaders of the cult. And the cult says, look, here's the scenario. We have to feed the demon. If he doesn't get fed, Everything burns, including half the entire city. We've tried to take him out before, it's never worked. So the best we can do is just to keep him fed. However, if you're willing to let this go and stop trying to bring negative attention and trying to expose what we're doing, we can provide you with a gift. And they make an offer. And the offer is they show her a picture of her with her family when she was a little girl. And by using some of the magic, by putting some dead flesh and a severed hand on top of the flame from the firemen and burning the picture, her parents start talking to her, so they can sort of connect her with at least the what could be the illusion of talking to the dead, or maybe actually talking to the dead. But either way, the fireman creates a bridge between the living and the dead that is a gift to Amy if she's willing to join them and stop trying to bring attention to the cult and exposing them for what they really are. In another part of the cavern, Vic is coerced and encouraged by the other cult members to join them to become one of the members that are supporting the firemen's flames. He sees people throwing themselves in the flames to keep the firemen fed. He sees the blood dripping from dead corpses, and he's like, nope, there's no way. I'm not dealing with any of this. And then out of the corner of his eye, he sees Amy coming out of one of the side rooms where after she's been given that offer to connect with her parents, at least on a spiritual level. Maybe it's a lie, maybe it's an illusion, we don't know for sure. And she said, I told them no. And he grabs her and says, let's skedaddle. We're not sticking around for this, and we're going to get out of here. These people are too crazy for me, and I can't take it. So they start running. They find it, the stairway that is the exit to the cavern, and they just start running. The issue ends with Amy and Vic making their way up to the surface, which puts them in the middle of a cemetery, which is right dead smack in the middle of the hurricane that's barreling down on New Orleans. And they see close by an ambulance pull up, and a woman is sitting at the driver's seat, and she says, get in the van. I know who you are. I know what's going on. They get in the van, and they see the van is loaded up with sort of blood drive packets of blood. And she's like, okay, I know you. I know who you are. I know what you're trying to do. I know what the fireman is, and we're going to take him down. I've got all this blood, and we're going to make him choke on it. And that's where the issue ends. What do we like about this issue? You definitely got a lot of information about the fireman, the cult, how they work together, what is the end goal, what are the acolytes promised, or how do they feel that they're serving themselves and the community by serving the fireman. So there's a lot of clarity that comes to the front in this particular issue. Plus, Vic and Amy are both given separate offers, and they both reject those offers, which elevates them as hero-like protagonists, even though they're not very necessarily heroic in the traditional sense. They're both given the chance to given the opportunity or the chance to do the wrong thing, and they choose to do the right thing, even if it puts them in the crosshairs of being hunted down potentially. So in a lot of ways, this is a very strong, solid issue for character development and also clarity regarding the firemen's acolytes and what they're trying to do. What didn't we like about this issue? Amy and Vic escaped much too easily from the cult. Basically, everyone just sort of stood there and watched them run away. And that's not to say that maybe they couldn't have didn't have to get into this big climactic battle to make it seem believable, but at the very least, they should have been chased, or at least given the appearance of being chased, so that they won't expose the location of the cavern, won't expose where the cult is draining bodies of flesh and blood and everything else. So even though it makes sense for the story for them to get away so that they can find an ally and eventually take the fireman down, which is probably where this is headed, the way they escaped to take that next step was just way too easy. It was basically everybody just stood there and watched them run away and didn't lift a finger to stop them. So that was a little bit of a weird oddity. Let's switch gears and talk about the art. Andrea Muti, who we've praised in the past for the sort of water painterly style, but also the just devastating ability to project shock and fear and horror on characters' faces, is in full effect in this issue. Vic witnesses a lot of horrific stuff that he'd never anticipated and would give people nightmares. And you see it on every wide-eyed glance and every gaping mouth where he's just sort of overcome with terror at what he's witnessing. And Andrea Muti is fantastic at being able to deliver those emotional moments of shock and terror on the characters. Plus, the sort of amorphous, to be frankly, detail light style that Andrea Muti delivers makes the whole concept of the fireman consistent with the ever changing, always moving nature of flames. And even though some people might like a little bit more detail, little bit more definition in the art style, for this type of horror, it works really well. Final thoughts? What do we like about this issue, or what we didn't like about this issue? This was a solid horror entry in the series. You get some gore, you get some blood, you get some violence, you get some shocking realizations and revelations that hit the main characters hard, and it now establishes a sense of urgency because a hurricane is barreling down. They're possibly going to be hunted by the cult, and the firemen's big plan for whatever level of destruction he's going to commit is very close to coming into reality. So just generally overall, this is great action, great moments of terror, and lots of emotional gut punches, especially for the protagonist. So it's a really solid issue all the way around. Therefore, we're going to give Charred Remains number 5 from Mad Cave Studios an 8.5 out of 10. It's a good score, it's a solid score, and it's a deserved score. If you're into horror comics where it's a mix of supernatural and the people who follow the supernatural combine to double up on the threat and give you some tension, drama, urgency, this is a really good pick for a series. And Mad Cave chose wisely with this one. What do you think about horror comics? Do you like sort of ethereal, demonic type monsters that are born out of different elements and chase people down in strange and deceptive ways? Or do you like your horrors, monsters a little bit more traditional and solid? Let us know down in the comment section. And also, please, if you would, like, share, comment, subscribe, hit that bell for notification. And if you like reviews just like this one, please stay tuned through the outro.